Wanted to see you. Whoop, there's the recording. Okay, well, I can no longer see everybody. I'm very sorry to say that because I really wanted to. So I'm going to try one more thing. No, I'm not seeing it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Oh,
It
here we
might be,
go.
Laura, because I made you speaker screen. I thought that'd be better for like
Oh, that might be what it
afterwards
is.
for the recording for the YouTube and all, because
Okay.
that's the most important that people see you. But we'll get back to gallery for the view for the Q&A.
Yeah, no problem. Well, just know that I can't see you guys. So if you make faces at me, I won't know.
Go for it, dear.
So So first, I really want to thank Joyce for having me here today. As she mentioned, I don't feel like I even need to tell you guys much of anything about me. Um, I am thinking about changing my title from Chief Solution Architect to Authority Amplifier because I am rebranding, and we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit as we go through this. But I do help thought leaders use their brand and voice, which ties right in with what so many of you do, to attract their ideal clients through custom websites. So, did you know that there are over 200 million active websites out there and over a billion altogether, which I find kind of interesting? There's like 800 million not being used. But there's also approximately 250,000 being created every single day. And that then creates a lot of competition for all of us on the internet. And as we heard, we have an SEO expert in the house with Jay. Um, it it's important to be found, but once you are found, it's important to connect with your audience. So that's really what we're going to talk about today, and as well as the trends for 2025. So who is this for? Any small business owner, solopreneur, or anyone working for a small business. If you don't currently have a website, or you have a website and you really want to improve the results on it, or you just want to better understand how to attract potential clients to your website and keep them engaged once they're there. And obviously, you want more business because that's why we do this. I would love to tell you a little bit more about myself, though, on the personal side. You heard my professional, you know, my credentials, but I want to just give you a little look into me and who I am and why I do what I do. And this is a picture of my husband and my fur babies. Um, as I mentioned, I've been in, or as Joyce mentioned, I've been in technology for a number of years and have owned two different small businesses for a total of 16 years now. And in 2015, I was actually a project manager, an IT project manager, and found out I have a brain tumor. And it is a meningioma. It's benign, but it is part of my carotid artery. So it's pretty much going to be there probably forever. But it really, more than anything, it really stopped me in my tracks. Though they couldn't remove it, they did do surgery because it was causing my left eye to droop. So they did surgery to get it off my optical nerve. But when they did that, they nicked the carotid, causing a brain bleed, which then caused the drooping eye to become a mostly blind eye. Um, Ended up having a second surgery because of that. And basically, what was supposed to be out of the hospital in 2 weeks or 2 days, back to work in 2 to 4 weeks, turned into being in the hospital for 2 weeks and not returning to work. And I really had to take time to think about what does this mean long term. I mean, I was only 45 at the time, and I had fully intended to work a full life. So I really sat and thought, if I can't go back to the corporate world and I can't go back to work, what can I do? And that's when I discovered web design. And it's ironic, I was in IT for nearly 30 years, but I had never actually built websites. Gave a lot of input on them, did a lot of testing around them, but I'd never built one. And when I started doing it, I realized this is what I should have been doing my entire life. Like this was my passion. And I also found I was pretty good at it, which is nice to know. So it changed everything. It really caused me to change my direction in my life, decide, what I was going to do from there. And I tell everyone today, I'm very grateful for this brain tumor because it truly did show me where my passion was and put me in a place where I love what I do and it doesn't feel like work. I look forward to going to my desk and working on websites. It's an amazing experience. So that's why I do what I do, and the fact that I can share that with others and help them realize their dreams through their websites really makes it all worthwhile. So I want to kind of answer the big question, and I really got to tell you guys, I hate that I can't see you. I just really, it's like talking to a screen.
We're
Um,
here.
I know it's like I either have to have my notes or have you, and I can't have
People
both.
can,
And
excuse me, put info into the chat
That's
too.
what I was going to say. We can use the chat.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just I just want
not
to
the
be able
same. I know.
to see your faces. It's annoying, and I know this is being recorded, and that really stinks that I'm doing that too. Okay, so I get this all the time, and even more now. I swear I've heard this 10 times in the last 2 weeks that I don't need a website, or my mentor told me I don't need a website, or my coach told me I don't need a website. And I strongly disagree. And not because I'm a website developer, though that helps, but you need a website because people expect you to have a website. When you meet someone and you start talking about your business, the first thing they are going to do is go look for you online. And your website is the very best place to express everything you want to say about you and your business in one place. LinkedIn is wonderful. It has great SEO and it's wonderful, but it's not the full picture and it doesn't give you as much room as a website does. Excuse me. And it just really it's your storefront. It is your storefront without having to pay rent. It is your place to build know, like, and trust, to build that relationship with people coming to you. And you will not get that through social media. The other thing is, excuse me, I'm getting a cold as well. 81% of shoppers research a business online before making a purchase. So where are they going to research online? They're going to go to Google first, most likely. And again, if you've got good SEO and your website comes up, even if you don't even, honestly, don't even have to have great SEO to come up if you tie your website to your name. If they're typing in your name, your website should come up. The other thing is ownership of your list. So I always encourage people to have an opt-in of some sort on their website so that they can start building a list that they own and they can keep in touch with people that have visited their website and show interest in their business. And you don't get that through any other source. If you build a Facebook group or a meetup group or you have your LinkedIn contacts, you don't always own the emails associated with that. So you can download your LinkedIn list, but if someone doesn't share their email through their LinkedIn, you will not have that. So it's really a way to own your list. Oh, I'm getting a suggestion here. Hold on. Alt F5 did not do anything for me. I'm not sure what I did, honestly, because when I click on participants, I see you guys just fine. But then when I go back to my notes, I don't. It's very bizarre. I'm going to try one more thing here. Okay. Sorry, I'm giving up again. Okay. So I mentioned also the building of the know, like, and trust. You may be familiar with the quote from Bob Berg, networking and referral expert. All things being equal, people do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. That's where I get that. And if you do it right, your website is that first step in building that know, like, and trust. So what is most important for any website? Before we talk about the trends for 2025, what are some keys and some basics that we need to keep in mind with your website? I refer to this with my fresh approach. So F being focused. It should be focused on your brand and voice speaking to your ideal audience. It should be reliable. You should not have to worry that your website's going to go down or not be available to the people that need to see it. It needs to be engaging. Again, start building that know, like, and trust through engagement through your website. Engagement can be the opt-in, it can be blogs, it can be videos, it can be anything that brings people back to it. I really encourage people to do ongoing engagement so that people will come back and you have a continuous building of that relationship. It should be SEO ready. So in addition to doing the SEO programs, it needs to be built right from the beginning. There are several things that Google looks for in a website. And unfortunately, many web developers skip these steps, but they are critical for Google to actually rank your website. And then they should be human connecting. Again, it should be designed to connect not with everybody, because if you try to sell to everybody, you will sell to nobody. You need to sell to your ideal audience. So your human connecting in your website needs to speak to your ideal audience. So let's talk about some things to consider with new trends. When I started thinking about this presentation, I got a little nervous because people love to go out and do new things and change things up, and it may not always be in your best interest. So you want to really think before you implement anything new, besides the fact that you need to actually do it or pay someone to do it, ask yourself, does this new thing help my brand identity and my voice through my website? Does this trend help me connect with my ideal client versus potentially hurting connection with my ideal client? Let's say you do something new and funky and your ideal client is like Joyce's ideal client, where it's an older crowd and they don't want new and funky in a lot of cases. So you have to, again, think about that ideal client. And I hope I didn't offend you with that, Joyce, in any way. Did not mean to be. Does this change affect integral parts of my overall marketing approach? So when I wrote this, I was kind of cracking up a little bit because I have been rebranding, and it has meant changing everything I have ever written, and all of my flows, all of my email flows, all of my pages, all of my landing pages. I can't believe how much time I have spent with the little tweak. And all I changed is I niched down to thought leaders. So you would think that would be a minor thing, but it's a different audience and it's a different way of thinking and it's a different way of communicating. And all of that comes through your website and the brand that you develop. Is this a temporary or a long-term trend? Is this just, I imagine a few years ago, someone heard AI and went, oh, yeah, whatever. That won't last. Well, it's here to stay. So you might want to embrace it. But there are things that are, just trends. None are coming to mind off the top of my head, but you'll find things that are like, oh, this is hot and cool right now, but it may not be 6 months from now. So is it worth the trouble of implementing it? And then again, does this make sense for me and my brand and my ideal client? Okay, let's get into some of the trends. So you're probably not surprised by this, but branding and use of AI for branding. So Joyce was talking earlier about having people talk about AI. There's so much that we could talk about around AI, but I have recently discovered a tool that I will be sharing with you guys that is, I just fell in love with it the minute I did it, because it uses AI to identify your brand, to clarify your brand, and then really get down to the nuts and bolts of your ideal client. And as I just said, that is the key. So branding is much more than your logo and color scheme, though that is part of it. And it is a very important part of it. But it's also the perception people have of you and your business. So I mentioned that I'm niching down to thought leaders. Well, I had to really think about how I come across and how I speak and at what level that I am speaking at. That language is very important for how I am perceived. It's your voice, it's your messaging, it's your visuals, it's the entire experience is your brand, and it's your voice. I don't know that very many people, or that everyone really understands that branding really truly is your voice. So I just want to emphasize that. It's your identity plus your reputation plus your experience. And it makes you recognizable, credible, and memorable. Those are the key factors for branding. So here are some things that AI can be used for with your branding. So I just talked about the tool that I mentioned where it can help you actually identify your brand and clarify what that brand should be in terms of looks and wording, all of the above, design elements, all of the those good things. Your copy. I was just saying earlier, I feel like I have a marketing expert sitting next to me all day now, because I can just say, hey, and I call my chat GPT BBB, brand build, and now I forgot what it stands for. we came up, it helped me come up with it. I said, what should I call you? And it was brand builder, biz bolster brand builder. That's it. So BBB helps me all day long with my wording, with my content. It helped me with these slides and coming up with, because it knows me. I have taught my chat GPT my way of speaking, my way of doing things. I've given it everything I've ever written. It's looked at my website up and down, backwards, forwards. It's looked at my LinkedIn profile. My chat GPT knows me as well as I know myself and my audience. So I can use it all day long for that AI generated copy in my brand voice. You can also use it for chat bots. So you can use that for real-time conversations on your website, and we have them now where they can set up appointments for you. They can answer questions. They can actually have a back and forth conversation, which I think Jay was mentioning earlier, which can be good and bad. But it will, if you don't have the staff to handle all of that, it's a great way to keep that going and have something doing that for you, so you're not having to answer every single question. And then accessibility enhancements, which we're going to go into accessibility here in a second, but AI is amazing in terms of making websites accessible in ways that can be very time consuming if you do it manual. And it's incredible what it can do. So some other ways to use AI in addition to your website, you can use it to generate social media content, both images and the actual wording for your content. I don't write any of my social media content anymore. BBB does it all. You can automate graphics and videos. There are so many tools, and they're improving all of the time in terms of good pictures, replacing placing yourself in pictures, creating videos that are you and your voice. It's mind-boggling all the things that can be done. Email marketing, same thing. It can help with the subject lines, the content, and the timing to boost engagement. Ad creation and targeting. It understands where your ideal audience is and how to communicate with that ideal audience, which will save you thousands if you apply it. And then podcasting and video branding, AI generated transcripts. I remember when I first started my business, I started working with someone that does podcasts, which transformed her SEO, by the way, because she took the time to do the transcription of her podcast. But that is so time consuming when you do it manually. And we used to pay people hundreds of dollars for one podcast to do that transcribing. So now it's done. It can be done automatically through AI. And putting that on your website in a way that's accessible is excellent for improving the interaction. It improves in so many ways. The SEO, accessibility, there's a million things that it can do when you've got those transcripts. So let's talk about accessibility. What is accessibility? It is the practice of making websites usable by people with a variety of disabilities. It includes screen readers, magnifiers, speech input, or other assistive technologies. That's what the disabled folks are using. And I left a link here, or gave you a link here to refer to this, because one thing that I have found is the accessibility laws are very confusing for the United States. And I will state here, because it's very important for anybody that markets in the EU. EU is implementing a very strict accessibility law in June of this year. So you absolutely, if you are doing anything in Europe, you want to make sure that your website meets accessibility standards, because they are actually moving forward with a very clear and strict law. Now, in the United States, the Department of Justice has basically taken the stand that though it is not well defined, and this is, I put here the definition, this is straight from the website. I should have put it in quotes, I didn't, but it's straight from the website, from the ADA, on what they say is required. And what it really boils down to is the original accessibility law said that anything that a disabled person can access needs to be accessible to them, which is like everything. So they're basically just throwing websites under that blanket, and lawsuits are happening. They're happening in highest right now in Florida and New York, mainly because we have, and I say we because I'm in Florida, we have a lot of older folks. So there's a lot of vision issues. I'm not sure why New York, but it is happening. So I stress this and bring it up because it is something that we all need to be thinking about. So the things that you need to consider for accessibility: using alt text on your images. So that most of the time people hear that because it's an SEO key thing for Google, because it tells Google as well what the images are. But it's critical for someone who can't see to have their tool tell them what this image is. That's what alt text is for. The captions are the same for videos and images. So if you have a video playing and it doesn't have the clear caption option, then it's worthless to the person visiting your website. Clear buttons and link directions. So honestly, from what I've been reading, in most cases, and my accessibility tool tells me this as well, buttons are difficult. And I've really struggled with this as a web developer, because of course I want buttons everywhere. They're cool, they're pretty, they're nice. But what they want is that button to be very clear what you're actually accessing. So when you say download, that's not clear. It needs to say download this file, or download the, and it really should say disable the name of the, or download the name of the file, and be like this long. So a lot of times you want to build in the text itself, underline and have the link in the text itself, so that it's not a separate button. And a lot of times I end up doing both, just to make sure that I'm meeting those accessibility requirements. Colors is a huge thing with accessibility. The contrast is the key. So you've got to be able to read what is on the color. So if you have, say, a light green text on a dark green background, you can't read that. There's got to be a certain level of contrast. And I say green because I actually have a client that their primary color, their main color is primary green. It is the greenest of greens. And our accessibility tool hates it. It does not want anything on that green. And the only thing I can think of is because a lot of colorblind people can't see green. It's the only thing I've been able to come up with. But they don't want to rebrand, so we're doing the best that we can with it. So those colors are super important as well. Time to read and view while things are moving. So this would be like your slideshows, whether it be text or video or pictures. You need to have it slow enough to where the tools can keep up with it, or have a pause option. Or like when I do galleries of pictures, I have where you can click to hover and it'll stop the sliding. So that's really important. And then avoid flashing content. And this may sound crazy, but anything that can cause seizures. So you don't want, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I mentioned my tumor, and the side effect that I have from my tumor is I have horrible chronic headaches, and flashing anything will aggravate it faster than anything there is. I hate concerts where the big lights are flashing all the time. I will walk out with a headache every single time. So think about that in terms of your website. Don't try to avoid things that are super flashy and could cause a migraine. Just think, would this cause me a migraine? So the tool I recommend for doing this is an AI tool. It's called Audio Eye, and I include it in all of my websites, or either in my website you either have to have it or you have to opt out and not hold BizBolster liable. Um, but it's a great tool because it does. I literally can not even touch most of the websites, and it reaches 97 to 98% accessibility and provides a front end tool so that the people can adjust the site as needed. Now, and let me kind of address that. A lot of people are promoting the free front end tools now, which is great. That will probably reduce some lawsuits because it does allow you to zoom in and do some different things with the front end. And there's a free tool offered by UserWay, but it doesn't address the back end, and it doesn't address the actual color contrast or the buttons not being right and those sort of things. So I highly recommend, again, if you're doing anything in Europe, or if you have a site that you suspect a lot of disabled folks access it for any reason, I would strongly consider looking at Audio Eye. And there's UserWay as well. The cost is about the same. They're very similar. I just happen to like Audio Eye better. Joyce, how am I doing on time?
Mute. It's 2:13. So I would say you could speak another 5 to 7 minutes, maybe up till
Okay.
2:20. Want to try
Okay.
that?
All right.
Leave
Thank you.
about 5 to 7 minutes left.
Okay. I need to talk faster and cover less.
Okay.
Okay, so the third thing I want to mention is fast loading and mobile friendly pages. So you probably all know that over 50% of web views are done from mobile devices, and over 80% of purchases are done from mobile devices. And speed matters. And I don't know if you've ever done a speed check. You can do it through Lighthouse. It's one of my favorite tools. It'll look at desktop and mobile is always slower. And there are ways to address that. There's a AMD is what it's called. My mind is escaping me on the actually how to describe it. But basically, there are ways to make it faster. But speed does matter. So you really have to make sure that your mobile site is clear and that it is easy to use and fast, which is very difficult with mobile. Some things to keep in mind. Keep your most important information, and this is true for desktop as well. This is true for anything. Keep your most important information above the fold. That means when someone pulls it up, what they can see initially, that's what's called above the fold, is the most critical. So make sure that that's not wasted space. Your call to action should be there. Your opt-in should be there. Anything that is critical needs to be above the fold. And then make the navigation easy to find and easy to use. And then always optimize your images, your graphics, and animations so they are quick to load. They're not heavy. In most cases, in most platforms, you don't want to host your videos on your website because it will slow it down. So things like that to keep in mind. And then enlarge your buttons and hyperlinks to make them very clear visibly on mobile, because you have that short attention span, which I don't think I mentioned. 8.25 seconds is the latest number on the attention span once someone hits your website. So you've got to get their attention and keep their attention for at least 8 seconds for them to move on. Okay, so just some quick considerations when building your website. Obviously, you need to determine if you want to use a professional or do it yourself. Use a platform that is easy for you if you're going to do it yourself. Make sure your call to action is very clear. Make sure you have an opt-in that's not a pop-up. and keep your look consistent, user-friendly, and brand-friendly. And again, know your client and speak their language. So let's talk next steps. You can go out to this link and download my free guide, 5 Traits to Look For in a Web Developer. And then the tool that I mentioned, I am giving you access to purchase that tool for only $37. And again, I just recently was introduced to this tool. I did some work in building my chat GPT to know some of my brands. So it probably, if you've never done that, it'll take you a little bit longer. But I am not kidding you, in 10 minutes, I had a spit out of everything I could ever know about my ideal client. What makes them happy, what makes them sad, what makes them angry, what to say, what not to say, what questions they have, all of that, which is critical when you are building your brand and speaking to your ideal client. So for $37, you can go out there and check it out, and I guarantee you're going to love it. And then I would love to chat with you if you have any questions about what we've gone over today. If you have a website that you hate and you want help updating it or replacing it, I'm a big believer that everyone should love their website. And when I build websites, I guarantee you will love it, or we will not go live until you do. Or you don't have a website and you want help getting one. And here are the here's my website and my phone number. I just realized my email's not on there, but I am going to go ahead and stop sharing. And again, you guys can have copies of these slides if you want them. Do we have a minute for questions, Joyce? Thank you guys. You're all so wonderful.
I've seen Laura present before, and this was just, it is good, if not better, really. I mean, she is one of the best presenters I've seen, and gets to the point, and like Mary Chris was saying before she left, of really covering, such a waterfront of information. Questions, commentary, we got a good 5, maybe an announcement at the end, but I'd like to save a couple minutes. Go ahead, Laurie Dubois.
I have a comment, and that is, I appreciate, I've worked with web developers and designers a lot, and it seems like the client is easily convinced that they just want something that looks so cool. And it's like, it's like the form over function kind of idea. And it's like, I really appreciate you talking about like accessibility and all the stuff that's like, seems like it's boring or unsexy, because that's the important stuff. And I think if people spent more time working on that, like a website that works, right? Versus looking better than anything else. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Lori. I agree 100%. Absolutely. It needs to look good. It does need to look good.
Sure.
But, and it's funny because, I also stress, it needs to be consistent to the brand. I can't stress that enough, because so many times people build the same website over and over and over and over again, no matter who they're working with. And if you guys go out to my gallery, you'll see that none of my websites look like each other at all. Because and my brand is my brand. Obviously, you can see my brand is my color. I'm big on color, but you may not be.
You will never leave the house or a Zoom meeting without her lipstick on, for example.
True. And these glasses.
And those
These
glasses.
glasses are part of my brand.
Right, they are. Go ahead, Andrew. You were in a comment.
No, Laura, I was just curious. Have your thoughts and any reactions to Lovable or Bolt? Familiar
Can
with?
you say that again?
Lovable?
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about types of website?
Yeah, I've honestly never heard of either one. I'm going to write them down.
So you should definitely check lovable.dev, I think it is, and bolt.ai, I think. It's basically AI based, that literally they build up a website with a prompt. It's to you.
I know there are a lot of tools that are building websites now. I know Go High Level, or High Level, however you want to refer to it. I've seen some of the websites they build, and people ask me all the time, are you nervous that you're not going to have a job anymore from AI building websites? And my answer is no, because you still have to tell AI what the direction we're going. AI is not going to intuitively just know what you need.
Right. And that's to your point, right? I think that there's a saying out there that says AI gonna take my job. Like, well, it might take some people job, but most is gonna take jobs of people that do not know how to leverage it, right? So, and so you mentioned about having none of your websites are the same. All of Lovable's websites have exactly the same backbone, right?
Yeah.
Having said that, the speed that AI is increasing and improving, I would not fall asleep on any, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Well, and what's, again, it's incorporating those tools. Like my platform, we have AI for all of the alt text. I don't have to think about writing the alt text. I can just hit a button and it writes all the alt text, all the back end descriptions. It does so
Right.
much of the SEO for me. But it's leveraging that and knowing when to use it and when to use your brain and a human aspect of it.
Definitely.
I love that. I'm going to look those up. Thank you.
Oh, they're very interesting.
Well,
Any other
Lori,
comments or questions?
if I may.
Sure.
Lori, what you're getting to is that you are not simply someone human or a bot that constructs something based upon what you think you want. You are a design consultant which figures out from the client what they need and how best to get it to them. That's the difference between us and the system, because we know how to ask the questions that aren't normally asked and to lead to more information because we know that there's something that still isn't quite nailed down far enough, granular enough. That's the difference between someone who is a technician and someone who is a strategic creative.
Nice.
Thank you. I could not have said it better myself.
Well, this is being recorded, so you
Yeah.
can use it later.
Thank you.
You two have to connect.
Oh,
Totally.
yes. I already told him. Yes, absolutely. I think we could be great partners for sure.
Yes.
Yay.
That's one of the things I love about this meetup is just how people get to meet each other who wouldn't have like crossed paths before. While we have just a tiny break here, we can go back to a question or two. I want to announce that next month is the perfect follow-up from this particular topic is Chris Irving, who I know through a group here in town called Genius Networking that's greatly expanding, and also through the group Jonathan Ari and Denver area B2B and networking. His topic a month from now is mastering AI copywriting. This has already been discussed. How I make ChatGPT write in my voice. It's going to be awesome. And then in April, we have this gal who really knows a lot about AI, is going to talk about AI as a search, like a search engine, like searching through AI as opposed to Google, or maybe in addition to Google. So I think that whole concept, she has a couple different talks she gives, but I thought we've never really had that type of talk that I can recall on this particular meetup. So I'm just putting this all into the chat now, which you'll get when I send you in next week's. And of course, it's already on Meetup. Chris's presentation on the March 14th. Simplify your say, hey, Eric, this might be a good time for you to pop in. Came in a little late and you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself. Would you like to do that? Perhaps unmute your video. There's, of course, obviously your audio if you want to unmute.
Maybe not. I think Jay had something to say as well.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Lori, I took notes, but I'll make it quick. I want to emphasize what Lori said about that every business needs a website. Not only every business, I think every person, I think every dog. But anyway, I love your presentation. You are so professional. You've covered so much, a lot of really good points there. So I congratulate you on that. And for those of you who need domain names or don't have a domain name yet, my company, Total Speed, that's one of the things that we do. And I wanted to just let everyone know that what Lori and I do are not competitive, because my company doesn't do web design. So actually, Lori and I are going to be talking very shortly, and we're going to see how well we can collaborate on different things that we do. But we're actually very complementary, because my company does website hosting and Lori does website design, both of which you need to have a good website. And what else? Oh, and if anyone here needs email addresses at their domain, my company does email addresses. And branding, as Lori said, is huge. Branding
Yes.
is what it's all about. And I think a lot of businesses just don't seem to realize that. How many people have you seen do their presentations and they don't mention their website? Or they say their company name quickly and they blur it, and you, what did they say? What company? And yet that's
Mhm.
the most important thing that they have to say. So kudos to you, Lori. You did a
Oh,
fantastic job
thank
today.
you so
Thank you.
much. And I want to emphasize that email thing because I tell people this all the time. When I get marketing and sales emails from someone at gmail.com, I instantly put it to spam. I will not accept, I will not be sold to by someone that won't even respect their own brand enough to put,
And there's a lot
with
of people
Google,
out
it's
there.
$7.20 a month. I mean, seriously, spend $7 a month to brand your email. It is so
Yes.
critical.
It's
Yeah, there's
validation.
always
And
this
our email service is actually $7, Lori, coincidentally.
There
And
you
we
go.
include with each email address, you get 400 aliases for free, which means you can have, billing at your domain, sales at your domain, support your domain, and thereby make your brand that much more, definitive and appear much larger. And it's great for your company. We don't charge for that.
I love that. That's awesome.
Cool. Any other comments? I just want to mention, I did put it in the chat. And this is very last minute for those that hadn't already heard about it. But that Chris Irving guy that's coming next month for our meetup is going to be interviewing me. Actually, no, I do have it in the wrong place. Let me put it in really quick before people have to pop off. Okay, here it comes. Is tomorrow at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. It's a essentially a podcast style interview. It's called I don't have the actual name. I can pull that up in a half a second. It's called Unlock LinkedIn, Skyrocket Your Influence and Build Powerful Connections. It will be recorded like this one is. Chris will take care of it. It's on his Genius Networking Meetup group. So I just wanted to mention that. So if you want to get a copy of that,